Welcome to part 4 of my video series, Is God Real? In this video, we are going to talk about a group of interesting signs all bunched together and starting next week. This first sign happens on the 16th of October. The second one happens in about a day and a half later, right over the 17th and 18th. The following happens less than 2 days later. This one happens 3 days after that. And this one, which is actually 3 happening at the same time, happens less than 24 hours after this one. In this first screenshot, we have the Sun, Mercury, and the star Spica. In the second one, we have the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Spica. In this third sign, we have a photograph of Comet Siding Spring's tail from early September, and I have put Mars over the top of it. The fourth screenshot is a new moon and it is eclipsing the planet Mercury. The last 3 signs are Venus, the moon, and the sun. All 3 of these are happening at the same time. It depends on where you are on the earth as to what you would see here. This first sign does not happen again until 2027. The second one does not happen again for some time. I did not go through thousands of years to find it. The third one I've never even heard of before. I would call that extremely rare. The fourth one we see again in 2015. And the last one is something that I've never seen before or even heard of before. I would say most of these are rather rare. So back to the first 2 signs. Why is the star Spica important? Spica is the wheat in the woman's hand. That's the wheat in Virgo's hand. Do you see the wheat that she is holding in her hand right here? Now, why is the wheat important? Matthew 3:12. His winnowing fork is in his hand, and he will thoroughly clear his threshing floor, and he will gather his wheat into the barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. This verse is an image of the rapture, in which the wheat, that would be us, are gathered into heaven. So here we have a message, Mercury, of the wheat with the sun. Here we have another message of the wheat, Venus, and the sun in this little diamond shape, which I believe is another throne. Now, why do I believe this is a throne? Because it looks very similar to this throne in its nice little diamond shape. But this throne is different in that the sun is not within 4. The sun plays a part of this throne. Revelation 3:21. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. In part 3, I said that Revelation 3:21 was this throne, but I think it's also this throne. In this throne, the wheat shares Jesus' throne, and Jesus shares God's throne. This composite photo that I made of Mars and Comet Siding Spring is what it could look like on October 19th, but we really don't know. Comets don't quite do what everyone expects them to do. So this could be just a fizzle out and be nothing on this day. But if this had happened a few weeks ago, it would have looked something like this. The moon eclipsing Mercury is something we have seen one time before on my timeline. The moon eclipses Mercury on December 14th in 2020. I believe this is when the 2 witnesses are killed. Let's go look at these last 3 signs in screenshots of Stellarium. Here we are in Stellarium, and I have the location window up. Where this little red arrow is located is where we're viewing the sky from. Now this first shot is not one of the 3 that I show on my page, but I want you to see how far the moon moves depending on where you are viewing it from the Earth. We are viewing this from Antarctica here. And I want you to see the moon is up above Venus, which is up above the sun. In this next screenshot, we are viewing from Eastern Africa, and the moon is eclipsing Venus. In this next screenshot, we are viewing from about southern Russia here, and the moon is directly between Venus and the sun. In this last screenshot, you can see we are viewing from up near the Arctic, and we have a solar eclipse. The next thing I want to look at is where each of these signs line up on the Hebrew calendar. This is torahcalendar.com, and I want you to notice that they have Sukkot on Friday, October 10th, whereas most of your calendars have it on Thursday, October 9th. I have yet to see any match up with the blood red moon on October 8th. Now I only mention that because we could be a day or two off on where these signs are lining up. The first sign of the Sun, Mercury, and Spica land on the 7th day of Sukkot, which just happens to be the day of salvation. It then skips a day and a half to the throne sign, which lands on this day, which is rejoicing in the good. It skips the day of 8th day of solemn assembly. And then the next sign, which is Mars and the Comet, lands on this day. Israel set apart. Israel turns to God in their distress. We then skip to October 22nd, where we see the moon eclipsing Mercury, and then the following day we have the solar eclipse and Venus being eclipsed by the moon. The last thing I want to talk about is what we see in these signs. What do you see in each of these signs? I'm going to tell you what I see in them. In these first two signs, Mercury flies by the wheat as if catching away the wheat and taking it up to God's throne. We have seen that before. In the Revelation 12, 3-6 sign, we see Mercury come by Jupiter as if snatching away the child and taking him up to God's throne. The following day, we see Mars in a comet tail. This could be war or judgment. We then have the new moon eclipsing Mercury, which could mean death. Then we have these three. The first one I could see saying, the time of grace has come to an end. You can't get to Jesus anymore the way we used to. Then in the second one, I can see a choice being made. Do you choose Jesus or the fiery dragon? In this last one, I see a warning for the nations. When we see a lunar eclipse, it's a warning for Israel. When we see a solar eclipse, it's a warning for the nations. At the same time that I see those signs, I also see a completely different scenario. In this first one, I see the wheat with God. I then see the four horses of the apocalypse. Revelation 6:2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Could this first one be a fiery dragon with his bow? Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Could the red horse that brings war be the red planet of war in a comet tail? Revelation 6:5-6. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Could the black horse of famine be a black new moon eclipsing Mercury? Revelation 6:8. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Could this sign represent the fourth horse with death, death, death? I mean, if you look at it, the way I've got this set up, it looks like God is playing tic-tac-toe with Venus, the moon, and the sun, and he's going to win with death, death, death. So there you have 7 signs in 7 days, and in no way am I saying the rapture is anywhere in here. These could very well just be warnings of something that is about to happen. And just like some of the other signs, we might have to go past them before we can figure them out.